toxic masculinity.
So there's one super chat, it looks like, for $2.50, but I can't find it. Yeah, I can't scroll up that far, guys. So whoever wrote that, I'm sorry, but I can't read that. But I will go up slowly and I'll read some of these comments. John Bajak says, is it Porge Poros? It is not Porge Poros. There's a new guy, and he's from, where's he from? He's from Switzerland, which I have a good friend from Switzerland, so that's quite sad. Let me see here, ladies and gentlemen. What is his name? I'll find it. One moment, I think. What's the date today? It's the 17th. Okay. There we go. I've got it. All right, so his name is... Ooh, there we go. I don't know why this is taking so long. Sorry. All right, okay, his name is Hans-Georg Weiss. Hans-Georg Weiss. W-Y-S-S, which in German is for some reason a V. I don't know why it's switched in English. Strange. Hans-Georg Weiss, sometimes referred to as the new Porge Poros. Yeah, so there's this rich guy behind a lot of what's going on. HR1 was heavily funded by this guy. Now, is Porge Poros trying to pull strings behind the scenes? I think so, yeah. I mean, he's definitely on my board, on my map. But this new guy, Hans-Georg Weiss, he seems like the new Porge Poros, and we definitely have to look out for this guy. Frank James writes, Chris has a wall of photos with strings running back and forth like a web. Maybe. Let's see here. Frank James writes, this snitches thing is exactly what the Nazis did and what the Soviets did. Yes, and it's what the Chinese are currently doing. They have a whole, like, a social rating score, and the Chinese hire people specifically to spy on citizens, and give them a plus or minus. If you come home drunk, you get a minus, but if you help that guy in, you get a plus. Mark in Alberta writes, Toxic Masculinity is a future SNL guest host if he goes woke. Ooh, that's a good point. Maybe I'll do that. Guys, I love Biden. And I like communism. Communism is good too. And I don't understand why white men get to speak. I don't understand that. And you know what? I'm down with YouTube. Do you know how much money I could make? I mean, life would be so easy if I went woke. My God, I'd get everybody on my side. I've thought about doing that as a joke, like doing a new channel, being like, all right, everybody, I used to be a conservative, but this is why I've become a leftist, because, oh my gosh, it's just so evil. The conservatives are just so evil, and I've just figured out they're all actually secretly racist, and everything about them is just terrible. And oh my God, they want to destroy the environment, and they're just so evil and bad. I thought about doing that before, not seriously, but God, yeah. I mean, life would be so much easier if I was a leftist. Luke Mahalik writes, when I search for this channel, I have to say Toxic Masculinity with Mr. Reagan. If I type just half of that, I get different channels, and voice search goes wrong too. And then he also wrote, so Frank, I'd say it's called Toxic Masculinity with Mr. Reagan. Yeah, I should probably change that and make it Toxic Masculinity with Mr. Reagan. Frank James, Toxic Masculinity, I told you Mark and Alberta would be back. You said words my Christian self can't say, but I told you he'd be back. Yeah, I like all you guys. You guys are great people. Great people. Let's see here. Frank James writes, it's very cool to see you being chill with the Democrats and not throwing him across the room like usual. Yeah. You talking about my cats? My cat is not a Democrat. He's a Republican. Although he does like Valeria a lot more than me for some reason. Easing Anderson writes, Toxic Masculinity, was he saying that the First Amendment is bonkers, or was he referring to his situation with the paparazzi as bonkers? It appears to be the latter. It sounded to me like he said the First Amendment, because he specifically says, I've got a lot to say about the First Amendment, but I won't, but I'm not going to go into it. But he said the First Amendment is bonkers. I mean, that's what he said. Look, if you want to make some kind of paparazzi law specifically, I actually have no problem with that. I don't think being a paparazzi and harassing people is necessarily a good thing. I think that it's possible that celebrities could take out restraining orders on certain companies. But the problem with that, like you could take a restraining order on TMZ or something like that. Maybe that could be possible. The problem with that kind of thing is that, like I said, you have a lot of these celebrities who like getting their picture taken, right? So let's say I don't like TMZ, but I want to go to a restaurant where I know paparazzi are going to be. Does TMZ then have to leave the restaurant? Like they have to leave that front door where they normally take photos? Or do they get to stay there because I chose to walk over to where I knew TMZ was going to be? Like, I don't know. It just opens a whole can of worms. Like, at the end of the day, if you don't want paparazzi, don't live in Los Angeles. If you're super famous, you can literally live anywhere in the world. You've got tons of money. There's no reason for you to live here. Yeah, it's pointless. Let's see here. Trisha's healthy appetite. Oh, hello, Trisha. Trish, not Trisha. Trish's healthy appetite writes, it's his privilege to use the left's vocab. Harry is so privileged he talks about these subjects like he's been living in Pleasantville. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of true. Yeah. I mean, at one point he talks about how Prince Harry is kind of like Truman from the Truman Show, right? Like his life's just been filmed his entire life, and he kind of found his way out of it, right? But he didn't really. It's as if he left the Truman Show, but then he signed a contract with another show, and he just did the same thing because he moved to L.A. If you don't want paparazzi, don't live in L.A. That's that. Come on, guys. Get with the program here. Mark Alberto says, do you have thoughts on church versus Orthodox church? Not really. I mean, I was raised Protestant, although my family was Catholic before I was born. So we did go to Catholic church a little bit, and I like Catholic church. I'll tell you why I like Catholic church, because Catholic church is very pious, and I think that that's something that's I've always missed in Protestant church. I've always looked at the Protestant attitude, at least when I was going to church in like the 80s and 90s. In the 80s, it was actually a lot more serious. When I was going to Protestant church in the 80s, but I was very young. I was 10 in 1990, right? I turned 10 in 1989, at the end of 1989. And so from 1980 to 1989, I was between the age of the age of 1 and 9, right? The age of 1 and 9. And I didn't really like going to church. Sunday school was fine, it was, but as a child, you don't really get much out of the sermons of the pastor. You go to Sunday school, right? So if you do end up having to go to the main area of the church and watch the preacher, you don't really care that much. You're just a kid, you want to draw or something. And once I got a little bit old enough, I could understand what the pastor was talking about, and I knew a little bit more about Christianity and the whole concept of what I was listening to. I just felt like it wasn't reverent enough. Protestant church in the 90s, we started to get this thing that became popularized where you would get, somebody in the church who liked to sing, and then you would get these kind of like quasi rock songs that they would sing in front of the church. And I just felt like a lot of the people that were doing like leading the songs and stuff like that were like kind of enjoying the attention too much. It just felt like it was like all about the people on stage, and it wasn't about God as much. That's what I felt like, at least in the churches that I went to. So I really kind of became a little bit cynical about Protestant church, and I really respected the piety of the Catholic Church. Now, obviously, the Catholic Church doesn't conform to all the beliefs that the Protestants have. And so I have some disagreements with the views of the Catholic Church in some small ways. I don't care as much. Some Protestants really think that, like my grandparents really thought that Catholicism was like idolatry, right? Worshipping Mary and all that kind of stuff, which is interesting because they were Catholics when before I was born. But they really turned against Catholicism. And I'm not as against Catholicism as a lot of Protestants. I think that all of that stuff can work together. It's all about believing in God. It's all about respecting God and Christ and and having that faith. I don't think that it matters that much if you're Protestant or you're Catholic or you're like say an Eastern Orthodox Christian. We're all Christians. I think that Christians need to be a little bit more respectful of each other and not so much like, oh, my Christianity is right. I really hate that kind of thing. Mark in Alberta, yeah, okay, I read that. Frank James says the difference between the left and the right it teaches a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. The left teaches a man to fish and you give up your leverage. Oh man, that's so true. That's so true. Oh, that's brilliant. I'm going to steal that. That's absolutely genius. Yeah, the right thinks everybody needs to learn how to fish so that everybody can survive. The left says, whoa, 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 whoa. If everybody learns to fish, then we can't control them. Then we can't get, no. We need to be the distributors of the fish. If you guys learn to fish, we're screwed. Yeah, that's 100% right. Let's see here. Mark in Alberta says, do all vaxes matter? I don't know what that means. Let's see here. Frank James writes, it was mine. I don't understand any of this. Oh, it was a $2.50 super chat. Did you start your channel before the apocalypse? Oh, the adpocalypse. I did not. No, I actually started after the first adpocalypse. I don't know how many adpocalypse there were before my channel started. It was definitely after the censorship had started. So it was very difficult to build my channel compared to before that. But that said, I was able to build it. But yeah, it was very quickly censored. Very quickly censored. I actually looked into the data to figure out how here's how I know what happened. My Gillette video was shared massively on YouTube, right? It was distributed on YouTube sort of organically, right? You can see how like it got popular and then it was distributed by YouTube because they didn't know who I was, right? So it was distributed by YouTube organically and it found a lot of different users who were new to my channel and were like, oh, this is great. If you look at the distribution on my AOC video, the success of my AOC video was almost that was the big video, right? That was the video that made me famous, right? That blew up and made my channel successful. That video was exclusively successful on Facebook. So what happened was, it was almost all external views. The distribution on YouTube was actually quite minimal, which is insane if you think about it, because if I'm getting whatever it was, 2 or 3 million views on just external views, you'd think that the YouTube algorithm would go, holy crap, this is a video people want to see, let's distribute this. And could you imagine how successful that video would have been if YouTube's distribution had been fair to my channel at that time? That video would have gotten 10, 20 million, 30 million views, something like that. But because YouTube had figured out, oh, this is a conservative channel, we need to block it, the distribution on YouTube, the number of views that I was getting off YouTube was very, very minimal. What was happening is people were sharing it on Facebook and it went viral on Facebook. So people were actually clicking on it and being sent to YouTube from Facebook by clicking on the link. And actually, at the time I didn't have a Facebook channel for my Mr. Reagan channel. So a lot of people were just copying my video and posting it on Facebook and they were sharing it. So I don't know how many people saw that video. But a lot of it was like just ripped off of so I didn't get paid for most of the views, I think. I don't know how many people saw it at the end, but I've gotten something, I think like 3 million views on that video. But yeah, you can't, you cannot succeed in the same way you can on YouTube as a non-political channel. You cannot succeed the same way as a conservative channel. It's just not possible. YouTube will find 16 different ways to screw you. I'm talking to my manager right now to try to figure out if we can't talk to YouTube to try to figure out how to remove some of the restrictions on my channel. I don't know how successful they're going to be at that. I think YouTube really hates my channel. But yeah, I'm actually losing subscribers at the moment, which is weird because my channel has my videos have a very good click-through rate. People seem to like them, but yeah, it is what it is. That's the game of YouTube if you're conservative. All right, guys, that's it for me. I will be back tomorrow. Looking forward to it. I'm going to have some dinner, and then I'm going to work on some videos for my Mr. Reagan channel because, yeah, I got a bunch of videos I got to put out. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Remember, we are the least professional show on YouTube. Valeria should be back next week, actually. She's working every single day this week, so she does apologize, but she's not going to be around. But anyway, I'm Toxic, she's Masculine, and together we are Toxic Masculinity. Good night. Toxic Masculinity.